The first thing I noticed wasn't the car. It was the kid's backpack, hanging off one shoulder, half unzipped, a math sheet and a crooked little drawing sticking out like they were trying to escape. Late afternoon light slid between the buildings in thin bands, splitting our corner into golden shadow. Our Harleys sat in a neat row outside the corner store, engines cooling, chrome ticking softly. To most people, it looked like a wall of trouble. To us, it was just another after-school watch. I was leaned against the brick, black leather, sleeveless vest over a dark t-shirt, the phoenix of the Redeemer's MC spread across my back. Ink wrapped both my arms, the skull on my left bicep peeking where the leather ended. I sipped bad coffee and listened to the city breathe. Distant horns, a bus groaning to a stop, the buzz of the store's old neon sign behind me. Then I saw them. Two kids coming down the sidewalk like they were trying very hard not to run. The girl in front, 14 maybe, moved fast, ponytail swinging, eyes cutting from storefront glass to alley mouths to the intersection ahead. One hand gripped the strap of her backpack so tight her knuckles were white. The other was locked around the wrist of the boy behind her. The boy was small, swallowed by a gray hoodie and a faded blue backpack. Shoes scuffed, knees knocking together as he tried to match his sister's pace. He didn't look at the candy posters in the window or at the line of bikes. He kept peeking past her shoulder, again and again, like he was waiting to see something he already knew was there. Years of standing on this corner taught me to follow the eyes, not the feet. The girl's gaze kept cutting toward the cross street. So, casually did mine. That's when I saw the sedan. Beat-up dark car, dented bumper, faded paint, one mismatched hubcap spinning like it didn't belong. It rolled up to the intersection and stopped just a little too far back to be natural. Engine idling, driver's arm dangling out the window, cigarette pinched between two fingers. Sunglasses on, even though the whole block was in shade. Passenger hunched beside him, phone in hand, but his head tipped up every few seconds. Just enough to keep the kids in sight. The car wasn't interested in the traffic. It was tracking those two children like they were the only things on the street. The girl Riley, I'd learned, felt it. Her shoulders rose half an inch, her spine went stiff. The hand on her brother's wrist shifted from "come on" to "don't you dare let go." She nudged him closer to the building, putting herself between him and the curb without even looking down. They tried to glide past us like we were background furniture. Riley's eyes skimmed over the leather, the tattoos, the patches. I saw the quick flash of fear, the calculation. Bikers on one side, creeping car on the other. Pick your poison. The boy, Eli, didn't make it all the way past. His steps faltered. The rubber of his sneakers squeaked against the concrete. He hugged his backpack tighter, shoulders pulling in like he could fold himself into the fabric. His eyes bounced from the sedan, to our bikes, to the phoenix on my back, and finally to my face. Fear puts kids in cruel choices. Stranger in a car who knows your route home. Strangers in leather who haven't moved except to watch. You gamble on the danger that looks like it might actually see you. I didn't cross my arms or straighten up. I just met his eyes and held them. Calm, steady, let him see that I'd already clocked the sedan and that I wasn't looking away. His throat bobbed. His free hands shook once, then drifted up like he wasn't sure who was moving it, him or the fear. Riley tugged at his wrist. "Come on, Eli," she hissed under her breath. But he stayed planted right in front of me. I felt his fingers before I understood how much he'd just decided. Small, shaking, they latched onto the leather at the back of my vest, right over the Redeemer's phoenix. Up close, his eyes were rimmed red, lashes wet. Freckles stood out sharp against skin gone pale. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded like it had to claw its way up from the bottom of his chest. Sir, please. They're here again. They follow us. We don't want to go home alone." Those words didn't echo. They landed. Heavy. You don't rehearse a sentence like that. That wasn't drama. That was raw, honest panic from a kid who'd run out of adults to pretend everything was fine. Riley's face flushed, then drained, like somebody had flipped a switch. She stepped closer, still half shielding him with her body. Her voice came out rough and small. "They know our street now," she whispered. "We tried to ignore it, but they keep coming back. Can we?" Can we just stay near you until they leave? Behind me there was a soft chain clink, a boot scuff, the creak of leather as my brothers straightened off their Harleys. No words, just the sound of attention sharpening. There are days you kill time in a parking lot, and there are days when time grabs your vest and begs you not to look away. This was one of the latter. I let Eli's grip tighten for one more heartbeat. Then I pushed off the wall, slow and deliberate, so he'd know I wasn't going anywhere. I tossed my empty coffee cup into the trash and let my voice come out low and even. You're with us now, I said. Nobody follows you home today. Kids don't grab the back of a biker's vest because they're having an okay week. That kind of move is a last option. A coin toss when every other side has come up bad. I turned just enough to face them, careful not to shake Eli's grip. Up close, Riley looked older and younger all at once. Dark circles under her eyes, jaw set too tight. That's what happens when life hands you the job of bodyguard before you even finish middle school. What's your name, kid? I asked, keeping my voice soft. Eli, he said, his fingers curled deeper into the leather. I'm Bear, I said. These big ugly guys are the redeemers. You're safe right here with us. Got it? He nodded, a tiny jerk. His hand didn't move. I met Riley's eyes. And you? Riley. Chin up, words clipped. We're fine, we just need them to go away. Somewhere down the block a car door slammed. Not the sedan, just somebody grabbing groceries. But Eli flinched like he'd been slapped. Fear like that doesn't come from one bad afternoon. How long have they been around? I asked, like I was asking about the weather. Riley's fingers dug into her backpack strap. About a week, she said. Maybe more. First at the bus stop. Same car, same guys. We thought they were waiting for someone. But they keep showing up. Different streets, same time. They crawl behind us or wait at corners like that. She flicked her eyes toward the sedan. Eli spoke faster, words tumbling. Yesterday they were on Oak. The day before on the hill. The man with the glasses, he smiled. His face twisted. Not like a nice smile, like when you pick something in a store and decide it's yours. Heat flared in my chest at that. I let it run through me and out, like electricity hitting a grounded wire. Anger's useful, but only if it stays on a leash. In the convenience store window, I caught the sedan's reflection. The driver had angled himself for a better view. He wasn't moving on. He was waiting us out, betting we were just background noise. Does your mom know? I asked quietly. Riley shook her head on instinct, then hesitated. She works nights at the diner, she said. She already worries about the bills, the neighborhood, everything. We didn't want to add to it. We tried other ways home, stayed on busy streets. She drew a little circle in the air with one finger, mimicking a car looping the block. They always find us. Eli swallowed hard. If we tell her, she'll walk us, he said. Then they'll know who she is and where she works, and whatever came after that was too big to say out loud. His mouth snapped shut on it. That's the thing with kids. They don't need the full story to feel the danger. Their bodies fill in the blanks for them. Shaking hands, sleepless nights, stomachs knotted like fists. Behind me, I heard a quiet shift. Snake, one of my brothers, peeled his back off the wall. Full sleeves, shaved head, thick beard, skull ink bulging on his bicep as he rolled his shoulder. He flicked his chin toward the corner. A question without words. I gave the smallest nod. We were done pretending this was nothing. Riley, I said, look at me. She did, even though it clearly cost her. Up close, I could see the tiny tremor in her bottom lip, the way she was biting it to keep from shaking in front of her little brother. You didn't make anything worse by stopping here, I told her. You made it better. You got witnesses. That car isn't just creeping on you anymore. It's creeping on you in front of 8 men with long memories. Her eyes searched my face for a second, testing every word. Then her shoulders dropped a fraction. Not relaxed, just less alone. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're staying right here with us for a minute. You're not walking anywhere without company. We're going to get some information. We're going to call the right people, and we're going to do it clean. No chasing, no yelling. We don't have to scare them with a show when we can scare them with a record. That earned the smallest twitch at the corner of her mouth, not a smile, just a crack in the wall. I turned my head. "Doc," I called. Doc sat astride his Harley like it was a chair he'd been born in. Black vest, phoenix patch, full-sleeve skull tattoo flexing as he rolled his wrist. Calm eyes, neat beard. "Plate, well?" I asked. "Got it," he said, barely moving his lips. "Same car that idled by the middle school 3 afternoons this week." The air around us tightened a notch. "Send it to our friend downtown," I said. "Tell him we've got 2 kids who feel watched and 8 witnesses in cuts ready to sign if it comes to that." Doc pulled out his phone. No hurry, no big gestures, just a man answering a text. We'd spent years building quiet respect with a couple of officers who understood how this worked. We saw things first. They made sure it ended on paper, not in a hospital report. I crouched a little, bringing my face closer to Eli's level, careful not to loom. "You walk this way every day, guys?" "Swishe." He nodded. "From the bus," he said. "We go past here, then turn by the laundromat, then it's just houses." Just houses. No businesses, no cameras, no people hanging out on stoops, just doors that slam and curtains that close. I knew that stretch. A bad place to be alone. "Okay," I said, "here's the deal. Today, you're not doing that last part alone. Today, you're going to show us the exact route. We're going to walk it with you, slowly, in plain sight, so anyone who's been watching learns something they won't forget." Riley's voice was cautious, but there was steel in it now. "Learns what?" "That you're not alone," I said. "That this corner isn't a hunting ground. That the street breathes different when the redeemers are on it." Snake drifted closer to the curb, casual as smoke. He didn't stare at the sedan, he just happened to face that way. Arms loose, tattoos and skull ink visible, every inch of him saying, "We see you." Another brother, Ghost, nudged his bike so the front wheel pointed toward the intersection, chrome catching the low sun like a spotlight. The sedan's driver shifted in his seat. Even from here, I saw his jaw tighten, saw the cigarette stall halfway to his mouth. Predators don't like it when the quiet background suddenly looks back. "They're not allowed to just follow us, right?" Riley asked. "Even if they don't do anything." "They're allowed to be dumb," I said. "They're allowed to drive on public streets, but once a cop has their plate and a note that they've been circling kids and a bunch of bikers ready to swear they saw it, they're not allowed to pretend it's innocent anymore." Eli sniffed. "Grown-ups say they'll keep an eye out," he muttered. "Then they forget." That one cut deeper than he meant it to. I remembered adults who'd said the same thing to me once, back when I was small and the wrong people knew where I lived. "We don't forget," I said quietly. "We've got long memories and loud bikes. It's literally our whole deal." I straightened, feeling my brother's attention lock in. We still hadn't fired up a single engine or raised a single voice. But something had shifted. The street, a minute ago, had felt like any other corner. Now it felt like a promise. I looked back at Riley and Eli. "You asked if you could stay near us until they left," I said. "We're going to do a little more than that. We're going to make sure that when they finally pull away, they remember exactly who was standing between them and you. But before we see what happens next, if you're loving this story, hit that subscribe button. We post stories like this every week. And drop a comment. Tell us where you're watching from. Are you Team Redeemers? The funny thing about real confrontations is they don't start with shouting. They start with tiny decisions. A hand on a vest, a nod between brothers, a car that chooses not to turn left when it easily could. I stepped out toward the curb, Eli still anchored to my back like I was the last solid thing in a world made of smoke. The street felt different now, like someone had turned down the background noise and turned up the sounds that mattered. The ticking of cooling engines, the distant hum of the sedan's idle. Riley's quick, shallow breaths behind me. "All right," I said, "loud enough for my brothers, quiet enough for the kids. We're going for a little walk." Boots thudded against concrete as the Redeemers moved into formation. Not a scramble, not a rush. Just a slow, practiced shift, like pieces on a board sliding into place. 2 brothers to the front, 2 to the seas, 2 falling back. Bikes stayed where they were for the moment, black silhouettes against the store's neon glow. Riley frowned. "You're walking with us?" she asked, like she was trying to picture it and couldn't quite. You show us your route, I said. Exactly how you'd take it. Same sidewalks, same turns. We'll be your shadow, just a little louder than usual. Eli let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in his chest for a week. His grip shifted from desperate claw to stubborn hold. Okay, he whispered. We stepped off the corner as one. The city responded in small ways. A curtain across the street twitched. A guy smoking outside the laundromat straightened, eyes widening as he clocked the vests, the patches, the kids tucked into the middle. Somewhere a TV in an upstairs apartment murmured over the hush of our boots. The sedan moved too. It rolled forward to match our pace, staying just far enough back to keep pretending they were only going where we were going. Ghost, I said without looking back. Camera. I heard the soft click of his phone coming throughout, the subtle shift as he angled himself toward the street. No hiding it. That was the point. He lifted the phone, framed the car and the kids in one shot, and tapped the screen. Once. Twice. Again. The driver noticed. Of course he did. He straightened, sunglasses tilting, just enough to give us a glimpse of his eyes, small and mean. His jaw worked around the cigarette like he was chewing on the urge to say something. He didn't. He just tightened his grip on the wheel. The passenger leaned forward, lips moving fast. From here, all we could see were his hands, one waving, one stabbing at his phone like he was texting a problem he didn't know how to solve. Eli looked back once, then quickly forward again. They're closer than usual, he muttered. Good, I said. Makes the picture clearer. The walk to the laundromat took maybe 3 minutes on a normal day. That afternoon, it stretched long and thin, every second filled with micro movements. Riley's fingers loosening, then tightening around her backpack strap. Snake's eyes flicking from car to cross street to rooftop and back. The glow of Ghost's phone as he quietly sent photos and the plate number to our contact downtown. At the crosswalk by the laundromat, we stopped and waited for the light even though there were no cars coming. Small detail, big message. We weren't here to play outlaw. We were here to play this by the book, in full view. The sedan pulled up behind us and had to stop too. Idling, engine rumbling, my brother shifted just enough so the kids were shielded from the direct line of those headlights. Not blocking traffic, not surrounding the car, just inconveniently present. A soft buzz in my vest pocket told me what I was waiting to hear. I pulled out my phone, glanced at the screen. A text from downtown. They've seen that plate before, I said under my breath to Doc. Near the middle school, near the park, near the subway entrance. Always just a little too close to kids. Doc's jaw flexed once. They rolling? He asked. They're 2 blocks out, I said. Marked car. We just need our friends back there to keep doing exactly what they're doing. The light turned green. We started walking again, turning off the busier road and onto the street Riley had called just houses. I felt the air change the second we stepped onto that block. Sound thinned, no storefront buzz, no clinking dishes from a restaurant. Just the occasional bark of a worm and the far-off rhythm of someone's music bleeding through a closed window. The kind of street where trouble could tuck itself into the silence and wait. Not today. The sedan eased in behind us again, slower now, nervous. They were starting to understand that whatever game they'd been playing had gotten bigger pieces involved. Which house is yours? I asked quietly. End of the block, left side, Riley said. Blue steps, 3rd floor apartment. Okay, I said. When we get near it, you and Eli go up with Ghost and Doc. They'll walk you to the door, meet your mom if she's home. The rest of us will have a little chat with our new neighbors out here. Riley hesitated. Are you going to fight them? She asked. The word fight sounded heavy in her mouth, like it came with police reports and hospital trips and new reasons to be afraid. No, I said firmly. We're going to make it very, very clear that they're not invisible. Sometimes that's all it takes. Halfway down the block, blue and red washed faintly over the rooftops ahead. Not loud yet, just a glow reflecting off windows, growing stronger with every step. The sedan saw it when we did. It hesitated, brake lights flaring just a fraction of a second too long. Fight or flight right there in the glow of a cracked taillight. They chose wrong. Instead of turning off, instead of backing away and cutting their losses, the driver inched forward, staying behind us like he could somehow blend into the scenery, even as a marked cruiser rolled onto the far end of the street. The police car slowed as soon as it saw us, not because of the vests, our friend knew us, but because of the picture we were painting. Kids in the middle, bikers around them, set in creeping at the back. Everything we'd described in text, now laid out in living color. The cruiser's lights flared brighter, washing the brick walls in red and blue. The siren gave one short, sharp chirp. Not a full blast, just a needle in the quiet. "Here we go," I murmured. The cruiser eased past us on the opposite side of the street, moving slow enough for me to see the officer's face. He gave me a tiny nod. I nodded back, the kind of silent handshake you learn after years of choosing to be on the same side, even when you don't look like it. When he reached the sedan, the cruiser's brake lights flared. Then the car stopped. A second later, the street filled with blue and red. The officer stepped out, adjusting his belt, expression neutral, professional. He approached the sedan's window with the kind of calm that makes guilty men sweat. "Is he going to arrest them?" Eli whispered. "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not. That's his call. What matters is this: they're not ghosts anymore. They exist on record now. Names, faces. The next time they think about circling a school, they'll remember what this felt like." We kept walking, not lingering, not crowding. The last thing we wanted was to turn it into a circus. Our job was to get the kids home and to make sure when those men looked up from their ID cards and their nervous excuses, they saw exactly who had been standing between them and their target. They did. As we passed, the driver's head turned, sunglasses pushed up onto his hair now. His eyes found Eli, then Riley, then me. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something smart. I didn't give him that chance. I stopped just long enough to turn my body so he could see the full spread of my vest. The Phoenix of the Redeemer's MC, lit up in the pulse of the cruiser's lights. Full sleeves on both arms. Skull tattoo on my bicep sharp in the red-blue strobe. Hands loose at my sides. No fists, no threats. I held his gaze, steady and flat. "They're kids," I said, voice low but clear enough to carry. "You so much as roll past this block again, and you'll see more than just us. You'll see every letter of that plate number on every desk that matters. Understand?" The officer didn't tell me to back off. He just watched, letting the words hang in the air like another kind of warning. The driver's throat bobbed. "We were just driving," he muttered. "Pick a different street," I said. "Pick a different hobby." I didn't wait for an answer. I turned back to the kids. Riley's building was only a few doors away now. Blue steps chipped at the edges. A plant dying bravely in a plastic pot by the doorway. Familiar, worn, normal. The kind of place that should feel like a fortress to a kid at the end of a school day, not a finishing line in a race they didn't sign up for. "Ghost Doc," I said. "Walk them up. If Mom's home, give her the short version. She deserves to know what they've been carrying on their own." Ghost nodded, his usual half-smirk replaced by something softer at the edges. He took the lead toward the stairs. Doc fell in beside the kids, big hand hovering near Eli's shoulder without actually touching, letting the boy set the pace. As they climbed, I looked back down the street one more time. The sedan's driver was handing over his license now, eyes flicking nervously between the officer and our line of leather and ink. The passenger had sunk lower in his seat, shoulders tight, phone forgotten in his lap. The cruiser's lights kept pulsing, painting everything in alternating fear and relief. We'd never laid a finger on them. We didn't have to. We'd done something a lot scarier to men like that. We turned on the lights. The front door on the third floor opened with the kind of caution that comes from too many late shifts and too many bad stories on the news. Eli's mom stepped out in a faded diner uniform, hair pulled back, name tag still on. For a second, she saw only her kids. Riley on the landing, Eli half behind her, and her face lit with pure, instinctive relief. Then she clocked Ghost and Doc behind them. Leather vests, full sleeves, skull tattoos, the whole package. Her hand flew to the doorframe like she was bracing for a wave. Ghost did what Ghost rarely does. He smiled, just a little. "Ma'am," he said quietly, staying one step down, palms open, non-threatening. Name's Ghost. This is Doc. We're with the Redeemers. Your kids had some unwanted company on the way home. We walked them the rest of the way. I couldn't hear every word from the street, but I saw the conversation in her body. The way her shoulders tensed when Riley started talking fast, hands motioning the road. The way her hand rose to her mouth when she glanced toward the flashing lights at the end of the block. The way her eyes found Eli's, and whatever she saw there made her pull him in like she could fold him back into herself. Down on the sidewalk, the cruiser's lights dimmed to just a gentle pulse. The officer was finishing up, notebook out, pen scratching. The sedan's driver nodded too quickly at everything, the passenger staring straight ahead like if he didn't move, he might disappear. Snake exhaled, long and slow. Think they'll come back? He asked. Not here, I said. Not soon, not with a report, a plate on file, and out guys in cuts who know their faces. I watched the driver sign the warning slip with a tight, jerky motion. There are easier shadows to hide in than a street that just woke up. Ghost and Doc started back down the stairs. Riley's mom followed them to the top of the stoop, one hand on the railing, other still wrapped around Eli's shoulder, like she didn't quite trust the world to hold him yet. You Bear? She called down. That's me, I said, stepping closer so she didn't have to raise her voice over the hum of the cruiser. Her eyes flicked over the skull on my bicep, the ink, the boots, the patch. Everything about me said trouble. Everything about her said, I can't afford to be polite if you've scared my kids. They said you helped, she said, that you were there when they finally told someone. They did the hard part, I said. They spoke up. We just made sure someone was listening. She swallowed, throat tightening. I didn't see it, she whispered. I thought they were just tired. Kids get quiet, you know. You tell yourself it's school or screens or anything but what it is. I thought about every time I'd heard adults say, if something was wrong, they'd tell me, as if fear always walked right up and knocked. You see it now, I said. That's what matters. Officers got their information. We sent him everything we've seen the past week. He'll talk to you about options, patrols, reports, maybe someone at the school keeping an eye out. I jerked my chin gently toward the cruiser. They take it seriously, so do we. Eli leaned around her, eyes a little clearer now. Are you going to be here tomorrow? He asked. That one hit me square in the chest. Not will the cops come back. Not will they get arrested. Just will the wall still be there when the bell rings again? I nodded. For a while, yeah, I said. We'll be around this corner more than usual. You'll hear us before you see us. I mimed twisting a throttle. Kinda hard to miss these things. Riley managed a real, if small, smile at that. Good, she said. The street, it felt different today, when you walked with us. That's the idea, I said. I reached into my vest, slow enough for Eli to follow the motion, pulled out a small reflective band, bright, high-vis, the kind runners wear at night, with a tiny Redeemer's phoenix stitched at one end. Here, I said, handing it to him, for your backpack. Makes you easier to see. And if you ever feel watched again, you walk straight to this corner. If it's not us, it'll be someone who knows the story. Eli turned the band over in his hands like it was a piece of treasure. When he looped it through his backpack strap, his fingers didn't shake quite as much. Thank you, his mom said, the words heavy with more than just politeness. We just did what we're built for, I answered. You get some rest tonight. Let us worry about the street for a bit. Later that night, when the engines were quiet and the corner store's neon finally gave up and went dark, I sat on my bike and listened to the street breathe. It was the same block, same cracked sidewalk, same flickering streetlight, but it felt different, like somebody had opened a window in a room that had been closed too long. Fear leaves fingerprints on a place. So does courage. I kept thinking about that first moment, Eli's hand on my vest, fingers digging into the leather, like he was holding on to more than just fabric. A 9-year-old kid who looked at a wall of skull tattoos and black Harleys and decided, this is safer than what's behind me. That's not a compliment, that's a responsibility. People see guys like us and they make assumptions. Leather, ink, old scars. They write their own story before we say a word. Sometimes that story is earned, sometimes it isn't. But what matters, at least to me, is what we do when somebody smaller steps into our shadow. We could have chased that car. We could have pounded on their hood, yelled, made a scene, would have made for a louder story, maybe even a more dramatic one. But it wouldn't have made the kids sleep better. It wouldn't have changed that walk home tomorrow or the day after. So we did something quieter. We stood where everyone could see us. We turned our backs into a wall. We handed the problem to people who could make it follow those men into their records and their roots. We chose to be witnesses, not vigilantes. Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear a vest with a bird on the back and a skull on their arm and a promise in their chest. Not on my street, not today, not while I am watching. Maybe you're watching this from a city far from ours. Maybe there's no Redeemer's MC on your corner. But you don't need a Harley to do what we did. You just have to notice. The kid who walks a little too fast, the neighbor who keeps looking over their shoulder, the car that never seems to be going anywhere, just circling. You don't have to be the toughest person on the block. You just have to be the one who refuses to look away. Because when ordinary people decide a street belongs to its kids again, everything changes. The sounds, the air, the way the sky looks at dusk. Fear gets smaller. The world gets a little bigger for the ones who need it most. That's all the Redeemers are really. Not legends, not monsters, just men in leather who remember what it felt like to be small and scared and alone, and refuse to let the next kid feel that way on their watch. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that they're not invisible, that somebody could show up, that streets can change. Until next time, ride safe, look out for the little ones, and remember, the loudest thing about you doesn't have to be your engine. It can be your heart. If this story hits something in you, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who needs to remember that there are still people willing to stand up, even when it's uncomfortable. And if you want more stories like this, of leather and loud engines and hearts that beat for the vulnerable, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment and tell us, if the Redeemers were on your street for one day, who would you want us to walk home? Until next time, this is Gentle Bikers. We ride for the ones who whisper. They follow us and believe nobody hears it. We hear you.